I love competition, and I love how sports can just teach you a lot of other things with life. And so that's how I really got into it.
Welcome back to the Missoula podcast. Happy Tuesday. Good to see you, Brandon.
Steven, how are you, man?
Doing well. Shaun, this interview is long overdue, and I want to apologize for that because I think back in our 20s, which was probably a while ago for me, we used to play a lot of hoops together.
Yep.
And you were pretty good at hoops, and I
still is.
I'm sure you still play. You're a legend at the Peak, intramurals, City League back in the day. I just wanted to, my first question is, do you feel bad for abusing me on the court for 10, 15 years? Or are you still okay with that?
No, see, this is how I always, whenever I'm like meeting somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I know Shaun from basketball, the first thing I have to do is apologize. Because, especially back then, I was a little bit more competitive, a little more feisty. And now like we just do it for like, for a good workout. And
sure.
It's almost like social hour with all, your buddies at noon ball or whatever. But, back then, like, yeah, things got a little feisty and you ran a little more hot. And so sometimes I'm like, when did you play with me? Oh, that was like 10 years ago. I just apologize if I became a different person when I'm out on the court because, yeah. But,
so there's some war stories between you two?
Well, I was pretty feisty too, and not very good. So I had to play dirty. And I'm sure that rubbed Shaun the wrong way. And we had some battles. And we were
Steven was like, the defensive guy that tries to get under your skin.
It's those Dylan kids.
I was more of the offensive guy. And so like that was his assignment. So we went at it. And then you did some reffing too.
Yep.
And I don't know how kind I was to refs at that time either. So, I'm much better now. I'm laid back and I coach a lot of basketball too. So now I have a better understanding and I appreciate the refs a little bit more.
In your like newscast during the sports segment, you should critique the officials for that week. You should start a whole new segment.
That would be awesome.
Some like highlight reels.
That would be awesome. I do on Twitter a lot. People, come up, but everyone thinks I come off as complaining when it comes to officiating. There's just like a couple pet peeves I have.
What are those pet peeves?
Well, one, like when we're watching college basketball in the Big Sky, like there's just so many fouls. They call so many fouls. I'm like, just let it go. Like the game against North Dakota State, it was pretty great. Like up until the very end when they were fouling because they were down. Like I think there was like only 5 or 6 free throws at halftime. Like it was amazing. So yeah, that's one of them. But
Shaun, take us back to the origin of your story. I know sports is obviously a huge part of your life. When did that develop? Take us back to your childhood.
And are you good? Like, have you been on camera in the studio before?
Yeah, I don't know. The camera's lights. I'm not sure about all this stuff. Yeah.
All right.
I think it was just kind of like in me from the beginning. Like my parents weren't even like super into sports. And they were just like, you just kind of started before I could even remember. I was just obsessed with sports, playing, watching. Just
where'd you grow up?
Anything. So I grew up, I always just say San Diego. But it was like 90 minutes east of San Diego. So there's the beach, you go inland, there's a big mountain range, and then the desert. And I grew up in a small town on top of the mountain range. So it's like 4,000 feet. So it snowed, but like only like 2,500 people. My high school was like 200 plus. So it was like a small town, kind of outside of San Diego. Kind of very much like weather-wise, kind of like here. Just not as cold for as long in the winter and stuff.
What'd your parents do? For work?
My dad worked at Home Depot and was kind of like an artist. I am the opposite of an artist. And my mom is in real estate. So I just randomly just started getting into sports and played pretty much every sport growing up. And then knew once I wasn't good enough to do that professionally, I was like, I have to do something with sports, like, because that's just my number one passion in life. And so I was like, hey, this broadcasting thing looks kind of fun. And so I would watch a game. I'd put it on mute and I would just call the game, with it in silence, and kind of started out with that. And then I was like, you know what? I do a lot, of play by play, and we do a lot of live stuff on SWX. And I enjoyed that, but it's not like my number one, favorite thing with sports. So I was like, I was just trying to find different avenues. And then we had some family friends that were my neighbors back in California, the Klusewicz, and Jace just got done playing with the Grizz 2 years ago. And his dad, Josh, played for the Grizz back in the day, and they moved back up to Missoula. So I'd come and visited them up in Missoula, knew about it, knew they had a good broadcast journalism school, and it kind of felt similar to like my hometown growing up. And so came up here and haven't left.
What do you think it was about sports as a kid? Was it you loved watching the competition? You were kind of a nerd about the stats, or it was just like, why did broadcasting kind of grab you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't the nerd stats thing. I'm actually like really bad with that. Like I'll go to sports trivia and people were just assume that I'm going to get all of the questions right. And they're like, in what year? And like, my brain just doesn't work like that. They're like, who won the Super Bowl in like 2019? Like, I could not tell you. Like, my brain doesn't work well with like dates and nerds and stats, things like that. It's more just like the competition. I'm always a competitive person. You could ask anyone around me, whether it's like we love playing, board games and all that kind of stuff. And I love competition, and I love how sports can just teach you a lot of other things with life. And so that's how I really got into it. And it was just like, I have to continue sports in some form or fashion. And I've kind of branched out and do a lot of different avenues now, not just kind of in the broadcast realm, but that's kind of what got my foot in the door for sure.
Like those stories of like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, you hear about them in like high school going off and like acting together at lunch and all their friends are making fun of them. I picture Shaun, like there's Shaun over there just watching a basketball game on mute again. Just like in his room, all his friends are like, all right, Shaun. Yeah. Shaun, was it in high school, like late high school? Like when did you decide like, all right, broadcast journalism, that is the route I'm going to go? Or did you have another fallback? Were you looking at other schools?
I applied to, I got into like a lot of the UC San Diego type schools, all the UCs. I actually thought about maybe going to, Oregon and Florida. Had some family friends that went to either or, and was still kind of thinking about maybe, playing golf in college. I got pretty good in high school and I was good in some other sports too. But then I realized I was like, what, I'm just not quite good enough. So I think my senior year when we visited Missoula and I knew they had a good broadcast journalism school, I kind of set my goals when so probably senior in high school, knew that that's exactly what I was going to get into.
It feels like it's everybody's nightmare to be on camera, to speak publicly. When did that skill start to develop for you? Was it in college when you got into the journalism school, or before then, were you comfortable being in front of people on camera?
Yeah. The on camera and the lights part, it takes getting used to. I think I was always not afraid to kind of be like not the center of attention, but I was never shy growing up. And so I think there's a lot of people that are, whether they're just not, confident, or they're a little bit shy or reserved, that's kind of just in their personality. You can't really have that personality trait and be in the broadcast industry. And then it's just reps. It's just getting out there and just being comfortable and confident. It's not as scary as you'd think. It's actually very weird. It's a very weird thing. And it still feels odd to me at times because everyone thinks it's like this big kind of scary thing, but it's more like I'm just in front of one camera and I'm just talking. Right. And the hardest part about it is you are talking to thousands of people, but you're just by yourself.
Right.
And so it's figuring out how to like act and feel like you're talking to a bunch of people and an audience when you're in just like an empty studio in an empty room. It's actually very weird. Like sometimes when we have people visit and they'll tour and then we'll have a bunch of people watching in the studio, it feels way different because there's actually people physically there speaking rather than just into a camera like by yourself.
I mean, we experience it a little bit here, but we've talked with Ben Wyman about it, how when that red light comes on, hard part is you have to let go of everything going on in your personal life.
Yeah.
Like whatever you're carrying, like from home or stress or anxiety or that all has to be, you have to like suffocate it, push it down.
Yeah. And you got to bring,
you have to turn it on.
Yeah. And you have to bring a lot of like energy. Like it's kind of, it's draining.
Yeah.
Which is why like people criticize like Stephen A. Smith and some of these people. I don't know how they're on air and doing this for 6-8 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like we have quite a few, newscasts. Sports is obviously not a huge chunk of it. But like in our 6:30 show, it's like 10 minutes of sports. And afterwards you're like, whew, I need a little breather, because
Sure.
it's just you're focused, you're energetic and that kind of stuff. So I don't know how those people do it. So shout out to them because it is way harder than it looks.
Can we change that on the local news? Can we get a larger sports segment and a shorter weather segment?
Well,
please.
In our 6:30, I mean, we're the only station that kind of does sports in that fashion, where we have 2 giant blocks where we have 12 minutes of sports content every single day, and we're live in every show. There's a whole lot of different models of how different news stations are going about local sports now.
Yeah.
It's kind of, obviously evolving a lot. Things are going to web and social more. But our company, and the reason why it's kind of fun is like we have stuck to being live. We have stuck to still doing live productions of all sports, not just Cats and Grizz. Like we used to do the Cats and Grizz. We lost that contract, but now we do all of the Frontier football games. We do all of the high school, like we do a ton of high school football. We're doing Cat Grizz hockey this weekend, that kind of stuff. And so our company really values sports, and that's kind of why I've stuck around in that realm.
Yeah.
And the fact that we get to do a lot of live stuff and interact with Ben and Elena and all of our people on the newscast, I feel like that connects with the audience a little bit better when we're live and being able to show off our personalities.
Growing up, when you were a kid or even in college, did you have was there a broadcaster or an anchor that you admired, looked up to, wanted to be?
I mean, Scott Van Pelt to me is
obviously
kind of a goat. Yeah. Stuart Scott, Neil Everett, just the old school Sports Center, where it was truly just kind of highlights and less of the talk show stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you watch them and try to learn from them, like mannerism, cues, communication style?
I used to, but now I just be me. Like I feel like if people try and be like other people, it's just not going to come off as genuine.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to be the most effective thing. We have a lot of kind of in my role as sports director, I oversee reporters throughout the entire state with our company. Right. And so they're young and we're teaching them every single year. And a lot of them I can tell, like they like Gus Johnson. So like they call the game and they sound like Gus Johnson. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I love like the energy and stuff, but like find your own voice.
Yeah.
Find like ways that make you different and special, and you can learn things from them, but just do it in your way and not try and copy other people.
When you got to Missoula for college, was the dream to go 4 years here and then get out?
Yeah.
What were you planning?
Yeah, I think I initially was probably like every other person starting out, like, oh, I'm going to be in Bristol, Connecticut doing Sports Center and that kind of stuff. And then things, quickly changed. I met my, girlfriend who then became my wife my sophomore year of college. And so we got, married right after college, and then had, my oldest son a few years after that. And she's from Livingston, Montana, has a lot of family in Montana. We both love living here. And then once I had kids, I was like, man, this is going to be tough, because in our industry, kind of the way that you move up, it's 2 years is kind of like your standard contract, right? And so you kind of go, all right, I'm going to go from here to somewhere in like South Carolina for 2 years. And then I'm going to go to Tennessee for 2 years. And then I'm going to go to here for 2 years. And I was like, man, I don't really want to not only do that myself, but like it's hard once you get a family to drag them around and kind of pick up your life and leave every 2 years. And that just didn't really sound like something that was enticing to me at the time. So it kind of just stuck around. And then once I became the sports director and established and had been here for a long time, my company knows the situation I'm in, and they allow me to go out and coach and do these things that if I move to a bigger market, I wouldn't be the guy in charge. I would have to work on the weekends. I'd have to do this. I'd have to do that. Now they allow me, Rain, to kind of have a somewhat of a family life with this industry, which is very hard to do with the hours and just the way that it's structured.
How do you manage that? Because I mean, gosh, I see you.
Yeah.
Maybe I am the one with the issue. I'm at the Grizz games. I'm at the high school sports games. Like you're everywhere. Like your nights this time of year, your weekends are just slammed. And obviously your kids are in school.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find intentional time with your kids when they're in school all day and then you're at a Grizz basketball game or a high school football game?
And most of the credit goes to my wife, who she's the one picking up all the slack when I'm running around everywhere. We have like complete opposite schedules. So I don't, on a normal typical day, I go in at like 2:30 and I'm out of there at 10:45. So I will take the kids to school in the morning, and then if I'm busy that day, I won't see them all day. Like signing day, last Wednesday, I went in early at 7 and then was working all day. Didn't see my family the entire day. But my job does a good job, like I said. So like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's when we have like basketball practice. So what I'll do is I'll go in a little, like just an hour early or so, get a bunch of stuff done, and then I'll go run over and coach practice and then hang out with the fam till like 8:30, and then I'll go back and do the night newscast at 9 and 10. So it's kind of just running around, bouncing. I'll take random days off during the week. Like I'm off. We're recording this on a Thursday. I'm off on, today, just like a random day because it just kind of fit in the football schedule. But my schedule's kind of always evolving. Like during football season, I'm kind of working six days a week, but kind of popping in here, popping in there, going to pick up kids shows, there, pick up there. Yeah, it's just
press conferences.
Yeah, it's just a lot. So you're kind of like, there's no set schedule. You go in when sports are happening. You run home for an hour, say hi, do this, do that. It's kind of just, you're just all over the place.
Do you ever wish you just had a regular 9-to-5 job?
Yeah, my wife does for sure. I've certainly thought about it. I've gotten just so used to the schedule that I don't know what I would do with that. My hardest thing though is like, I never really consider that I'm like going into work. And I've had jobs, I worked in a lot of restaurants, where you dreaded like going to work and you're looking up at the clock and you're like, oh my gosh, it's only 2 hours into my shift and things like that. Like I never feel like I'm having to go, do a job. Like it's just me. I just have to go in. It's not, I never feel, it's never like I'm regretting it or I'm dreading going into work. It's never been the case like that. And so I don't know if there is a 9-to-5 outside of that where I wouldn't have that feeling.
Sure.
I was just going to ask you, when you were in college before you landed the broadcasting job, where'd you work here in Missoula? What'd you do?
Oh, I've done all sorts of things. My first couple years of college, like when I go back home, I'd work in, restaurants there. I was an intramural ref in college for a while. I worked at Perkins. I worked the 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift at Perkins.
Here in Missoula?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah. During school. I did a lot of stuff because, I didn't get a ton of help with like paying for college and stuff, from parents or whatever. So I was working through most of it. And then my whole entire senior year of college, I worked at KECI, the NBC station in town. I was the weekend news reporter. And then I'd fill in with sports during the week every now and then. So I started out actually in news, which I quickly learned I did not want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, some breaking news is kind of fun. Like I shouldn't say fun because some of it's can be serious and stuff, but it's like it gives you like an adrenaline rush, and it's like you got to really be on your feet and that kind of thing. But I could do away with like there's the local pet thing at Karis that you got to go cover. I'm like, nah, that's not really for me. So I started out doing that, and I actually applied for the job at my station. I had to apply 3 times before they actually hired me.
Really?
Yeah. And I give the old, I'm not going to, mention any names, but there was, we've changed companies a couple times, and the old president at the time, for whatever reason, did not like me. And so it took 3 times for them to hire me. And then I finally got hired, and I think it's gone pretty well since. And so I kind of had to
Crazy.
be like, wow, I don't know what took him so long.
I guess we started off with Steven apologizing. I probably owe you an apology now because I was one of those guys in Perkins at midnight on occasion.
Yeah.
Because nowhere else was open in Missoula.
No.
It was the only option.
Let's just say a lot of my tip money had glitter on it at times.
Well, that wasn't me.
Yeah, so at that hour.
That wasn't me. Let's go to our rapid fire questions here. Shaun, when you landed in Missoula, what was your first initial memory of Missoula, Montana?
So I went to a Grizz game and they were playing, I think it was Fort Lewis. Like one of those, I think D2 schools they just absolutely crushed them. And I'm in the stands and I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And so that was like my very first like introduction into the University of Montana, Grizz football. And I was like, this is awesome. Walking around campus, like this is where I want to go. And so that's kind of what sold me coming.
What's your favorite coffee shop in Missoula?
I don't drink coffee, which is kind of a rarity in my industry.
Yeah.
Given the hours. Like I got a little Lotus here, and that's kind of what I stick with, kind of some of the energy drinks. So no coffee.
Do you not like coffee?
I don't like coffee. Like the flavor of it, I can't do like coffee flavored ice cream. I can't do like any sort of coffee. And everyone's like, it's a acquired taste. Like you just got to do it, and you'll end up liking it. I just can't do it.
Favorite restaurant in Missoula?
Lolo Steakhouse.
Solid.
Yeah.
What zip code do you live in?
59847 down in Lolo. So we moved out there just because at the time it was kind of the only place that we could afford coming out of school, which, I'm not going to complain about now. I don't know how people get into that now. We lucked out, but yeah, we stuck down in Lolo and I kind of stayed there since.
Shaun, what to you is the weirdest thing about Missoula?
Oh, different ways to go about it. The street layout is very weird. Yeah. I'd probably go with that because we get a lot of new reporters that come in and I'm trying to like explain to them the stuff. And especially we just have one that came in from Great Falls, and Great Falls is like pure grid.
Yeah.
It's just boom,
first,
boom,
second,
boom,
third,
boom, boom.
fourth.
And I'm like, yeah, you got to turn this down the way and then it's going to go. And then you're going to have this weird intersection. And then it goes to this light that turns into this street. So I think that, the easy answer is like people and it'd be a little eclectic, but I'll just go with that.
What do you love the most about Missoula?
I think what I love the most about Missoula is that it's big enough where you're constantly meeting new people. It's big enough where you guys can bring on guests and there's so many people and interesting people that make up this town, but it's also small enough where it has that kind of smaller community feel where you're running into people that I go to a Grizz game, I immediately see 20 people that I know and can say hi, and you like form kind of friendships and relationships in a bigger town that has that small town feel.
Is there a specific book that has made the largest impact on your life?
Yeah. When I was reading these pre-questions, I was like, oh boy, because I hate to admit it, I don't think I've read a book in I don't know, probably like 10 years.
You don't have time. Your schedule doesn't allow.
Yeah, breaking news.
Yeah. And I'm a podcast guy. Like, so I don't even listen to music. People are like posting their like Spotify stuff, recently. And I didn't even know like that was a thing. So, and I have like there's always these young people in our newsroom, right? So they're all into it. And he grabs my phone, he looks up the Spotify thing. He's like, dude, you listen to like, 1 hour worth of music on here. I'm like, yeah, I only listen to like podcasts. Like when I'm in the car, when I'm doing this, it's either like a sports podcast or a sports gambling podcast or this And so, but the book when I was younger, I remember reading like the one that really had an impact on my life was the Michael Jordan biography when I was younger. And I think it was in like one of those like reading competitions when you're younger and you're trying to do as many pages. And I read it in like one night. I stayed up all night and read the entire Michael Jordan biography. And that was kind of when I learned and like, just like the drive about him as a competitor and what it takes and that kind of stuff. And that one really stuck with me.
So Shaun, you grew up San Diego area.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine grew up a Lakers fan.
No,
really?
I actually hated the Lakers.
Really?
Hated the Lakers. I couldn't stand Kobe.
Okay.
Me too.
I just didn't, I was never a Kobe guy. And I didn't like Shaq. And so I was actually like very anti
trying to figure this out.
Lakers. NBA is weird. I actually grew up a Timberwolves fan.
Really?
KG was my guy. Loved KG growing up.
Have you seen the throwback uniforms this year?
Yeah.
And the cars, so
those
sick.
are fantastic.
So
you got to
sick.
have like the green trees on the trim.
So amazing.
Cool.
So like I loved those teams. I like those Kings teams were super fun. And so yeah, I actually like hated the Lakers.
Yeah.
But my NBA fandom is kind of, with so much player movement, I feel like it's hard to like when you don't have an actual team. I like the Chris Paul Clippers were fun, and then now it's kind of just whatever.
NFL, who's your team?
Chargers. I've stuck with the Chargers, even though they moved. They moved when I was in Montana, and so I don't know. It didn't feel like to me like they had moved, because I'm just watching them on TV, and then I've always been a Padres fan. Well, I actually kind of grew up a Cubs fan just because. When you're stuck at home, when you're 12 and you can't drive and it's on WGN and Sammy Sosa's playing, you're like, oh, this seems pretty fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, now, big Padres fan.
And then lastly, obviously, you're a big time Grizz fan. So talk to us about how that developed when you started getting into the industry, and what did you love about being here in Missoula, covering the Grizz? Walk us through that a little bit.
One, you're trying to set me up with saying fan. That would get me in trouble for a lot of people listening.
You're impartial to both teams. Yeah.
Is it hard for you to differentiate, to separate, I'm here working, and set your fandom aside? Because human nature, you're there, high school game, crosstown rival, inside of you, you'd like to see one team win, but you have to remain neutral. Publicly, is that a challenge?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the.
Is that what you're asking?
That's what I meant to ask.
It's the biggest balance in the job, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, like yourself or people that just see me covering all the Grizz stuff all the time, think I'm a big Grizz fan. But once you're doing this for a long time, the way that you pull for the team or the way that you view it, it just kind of changes, and it's kind of hard to describe. I would say it's not like I'm pulling for the Grizz as from a fan perspective where you're rooting them on. It's more like you just get to know the coaches, you get to know the players. And so you're pulling for them as human beings because you want them to do well because you've established these relationships with them. And how much hard work that they put in, or the injuries that they've had to overcome, or how much time these coaching staffs put in, and the stress that they put in, and what that stress means, and the sacrifices that their families are making so they can coach, and all that kind of stuff. And so you learn and you see all of that, and so you want them to succeed just naturally as a human who knows them. But I also established those relationships with people at Montana State, and it's the exact same thing. They're good people. Their coaches are doing the same thing.
Right.
That a lot of them is the Sentinel kids, or the kids that you cover in high school that go there. You know them and have relationships with them, and you want them to succeed. And so you see it from that perspective where you're not looking at it as a fan, and you don't really necessarily get you don't get emotional if the Cats beat the Grizz in the brawl or this or that. You're kind of rooting for a good game. You want it to be where players are doing awesome. You don't want the game to come down to somebody messing up, and you kind of view it from that angle. But certainly, when the Grizz are winning, it makes things more fun. It makes my job more fun. And, if the Grizz are playing some, random team, you're of course you're hoping that they win, because that makes it everything more enjoyable. But you're not viewing it as a fan.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Shaun, do you enjoy the halftime interviews with a coach?
This is a lot of people from afar watch the press conferences, and we're all talking about Coach Halleck, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a difficult interview at halftime?
No,
he doesn't want to be there.
No, in the Monday pressers, he acts a certain way, but then right when it gets over, he's a normal dude, and everything is great. We have a very good relationship, but if you only watch some of the press conferences and stuff, there will be wow, Shaun doesn't like him, or he doesn't like Shaun, or
how many times have I heard him say Shaun, I'm not going there?
Yeah, and we certainly have our back and forth and stuff, but we have a really good relationship. It kind of just it is what it is. He kind of, I think, puts on a little bit of a facade on those press conferences, for whatever reason. That's how he wants to portray in those circumstances. But we have a great relationship. And I think the fact that I've, been here for a long time, and I think I have the respect a lot of the coaches that like we can have a little bit of pushback in those circumstances, and it doesn't come across as personal.
And not so much here with the Grizz or Coach Hauk, but sports in general, like ACC, Big 10, Big 12, whatever. It feels like those halftime interviews and even those immediate post-game interviews with the coach, they say the same thing every game. Like, is that the company? Is that ESPN? Is that Fox, ABC? They're setting up that contract where we have to have that airtime?
Yeah, I think they're just making it where it just has to be a part of it based on the contract. Yeah. And nobody, I don't think, really wants to do those. Or like, I don't even think that like people care to watch them.
I think even as a fan, because it's the same thing.
Yeah. And then the
boys played hard today. We came out, gave our best. Mm-hmm. They're a great team on the side of the field. A lot of respect for them.
Yeah. And as a sideline reporter, like you don't want to ask something like kind of too crazy and outside the box because that like the coach doesn't really want to be there. They just want to get to the locker room as soon as possible. But also like if you ask like just the most boring cliche question, they're going to give you a boring cliche answer. Yeah. So I think in those circumstances, it's like the balance of like trying to ask something. I think what happens is a lot of the sideline reporters, they just think of what they're going to ask like before the game or early on in the half instead of just watching the game and then asking a question based on what you watch.
Yeah, what do you do? I was just going to ask you, are you fed questions? Are you pre-scripting or are you being you?
So I used to, when I first started, that was the most nervous I was for anything. It wasn't the in-studio stuff, but like doing sideline stuff was scary and intimidating in the very beginning because, especially when you're inside Washington Grizzly Stadium, there's a lot of outside noise. There's a lot of stuff that is going on. And so you have to like block it all out and focus. And I used to do, like keys to the game or like things like that, where you're like, it's all kind of scripted. I got my 3 things. I used to like on a Friday night, I remember one time I was driving to Kalispell. I was going to go cover a Wolfpack game. I remember the entire drive up there. I was like reciting my 3 keys to the game for both teams, and I'm going through it for like 2 hours on the way up. And now like, I just have my 3 things and I just write them down just in case like I need to look at it. Yeah. Everything is just off the cuff. Cause if you try and memorize things, and then you mess up on your memorization, it's going to make you stumble and mess up. But if you just have your bullet points and then you just talk and be genuine and just go and just be yourself, then you'll be fine.
What is your favorite part of what you do, like of your job? When you're doing this, you're like, I'm thriving, I'm vibing. And then on the other end, maybe the halftime interviews might be your least favorite, but what's your least favorite part of what you do?
Favorite part is definitely just being at a game. Like when it comes down to it, like I love just being at the game and covering the game itself, because that's when the sport is happening. We're not talking about the lead up to it. We're not breaking it down. Like I'm just at the game and I'm watching, whether it's college, Grizz, high school, whatever. I don't care. Like just being at the game is the most enjoyable part for me. And then, going to practice and talking to a lot of the kids, especially like the high school kids. Yeah. Obviously covering the Grizz and stuff is fun, but there's an innocence in high school, and it's just so pure. Like they don't get the coach as much of the coach speak. And it's just so like, it just is what it is. Yeah. And so covering high school is really fun, and going to those high school practices and talking to those kids and giving them a little bit of, airtime. And
is there a local high school kid right now that you're excited to see play at the next level? You think they got it, they're going to do well, you're excited to see?
Well, I have told the Grizz coaches this. Like, I think they're missing on not bringing Lincoln Rogers on. I think he's going to be really good. And it's easier for me to assess basketball because I play with a lot of these kids. Like they'll go and play pickup ball with us at the Peak or at Failers or this place or that place. And so I know that he's pretty good and he can score whenever he wants to. And so I would say that, looking forward to watching him. And I think that he could play at that level for sure, at the D1 level. A little bit harder to assess when it comes to football because you're not like, you're just not as hands-on like you are with basketball.
It is interesting, like just growing up here and playing sports, like you see these kids at, junior high, middle school, you're like, yeah, they're not real athletic. They're not going to go anywhere. And then junior year of high school, like they are a stud lineman and getting all kinds of college offers. Like the kid that was so unassuming is going to have the greatest sports career of all of us.
Yes. And that's what because I'm very, heavily involved in the youth sports community with, my kids being in 5th grade, 3rd grade. I coach both of them in pretty much every single sport. And I think that's like one of the biggest things that is just both frustrating and like parents just don't understand is like everyone right now, there's like this giant fear in youth sports that their kid is going to get behind. And it's like this driving thing in youth sports that is just, I wish everyone would just understand that like your kid is not getting a college scholarship when he's 10 years old. Like, and there's this giant fear, and there's a lot of people that take advantage of this fear that their kid is going to get left behind. And so they're making like, okay, we have to have extra workouts. We have to have open gym. We got to go year round. And you're seeing all these sports like overlap at the youth level now because everyone is worried that their kid is not going to, be good or left behind. And they don't see or realize that all of this changes and evolves as you get older. And just because you're the best when you're 10 doesn't mean you're the best when you're in junior high or even once you get to college. Like that's why we see it all the time. We see Mark Mariani. We see all these kids that are walk-ons that go to Montana. Everyone develops on a different arc. And that is the biggest thing that I wish like parents and just people would understand is that we don't need to put so much pressure on these young kids, and everyone develops at different stages. And that's also really cool. It's really cool seeing a freshman in high school come in and he never plays and is not good. And then he develops and is good by his senior year. Or you bring in, one of these colleges, bring in like a project kid and he ends up being really good at the college level and develops. Like that's what sports are all about. And it's awesome to see that.
You mentioned the recent signing day. I was so blown away by the number of kids across Montana that are playing D1 football that we've never heard of because they're just interior linemen or just like, role players, but they're really good.
I also hate signing day. Like I hate it. It's one of my least favorite parts. And it's not like for the kid. Like it's really cool for the kids, obviously.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's cool for them to like celebrate what they've worked so hard to
It's a
achieve.
dream. It's a childhood dream come true.
I hate it from the perspective of like, we're grading these recruits, we're ranking, we're doing this, we're doing that. And people are always like, well, what do you think of the Grizz recruiting class? And like people get super into it. I do not get into recruiting whatsoever. Like they're like, what do you think of the linebacker from Utah? I was like, I've given zero thoughts about the linebacker from Utah. Like, I don't care, like when he gets here, like, sure. Like I will then let you know if I see him at spring ball, like if I think he looks like he's good or anything, but putting stock into like these recruiting classes is just, it drives me nuts. And like that whole way of thinking about it to me is just so weird.
Yeah. I was talking to Brandon about this the other day, but on Twitter, all these kids have their Twitter pages with, 6'2", 190 pounds.
Yeah, they all run a 4.3. It's crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
And all they do on their Twitter is just put stats in themselves. So that's just so different than when I grew up.
Oh, for sure.
We were just trying to play the game and have fun with our friends. Now it's just this whole huge process that starts so young for these kids.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's weird. You can even go younger. I mean, there's right now the youth sports, like they're doing signing day events for like 4th grade basketball and stuff. Which is just, it's odd to see for me. I just don't know if it sends the right messages,
sure.
And so I think if you're a college, like if I'm, the Cats or the Grizz and I'm looking at stuff, you really do have to kind of recruit personality and character, I think. And because you have to like dice through the social media. And I think a lot of kids have to put on this kind of outside persona or what they look like on social media to get attention. But like, is that who they actually are? And so you have to do a lot. I think it's very challenging at the college level because you have to do a whole lot of extra research, I think, to really truly find out like at the core, like what these kids are like, and then bring on those to fit the personality of your team.
Are you optimistic about anything in youth sports or the direction that world is going?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, these kids are so much better than when we were that age. because there's just a lot of extra opportunities. They're doing a lot. I think it's just about just keeping it to the core things, right? You're still able to have fun when you're 10. It's not always about winning and losing, and just being able to teach those core values at a younger age, I think is just the most important thing, and just not forgetting that, because playing in college is not the end all be all. Like, I did not play one sport in college. I just played intramurals. I played every other sport growing up my whole life, and I still play all the sports. And that has brought me a ton of joy in life.
Yeah.
And just because you played 4 years at Montana Tech doesn't mean that like you enjoyed your sports life more than someone who didn't go and play a couple years in college, and I think just understanding that message, I think, is very important.
Well, it's interesting with youth sports. I'd imagine you see this, at third grade level, when there's games, there's AAU tournaments, when the kids lose, they don't care. They're back at the hotel jumping in the pool, and the parents seem to care more than the kids. Like, how much of that pressure we're putting on our own kids, where it isn't the kids. We're developing that culture.
Or the parent or the kid ends up kind of like being upset because they're worried that their parents are going to be upset that they lost, instead of like the other way around. Yeah. No, you're for sure spot
on. Shaun, a couple questions for you before we wrap up. What is it about broadcasting journalism that keeps you going? The late nights, early mornings, like showing up, doing this. How many years have you been?
I started in 2011.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So we're going on 15 years here. Like, what keeps you going?
I think it's just the newness of sports, and and every season is new. Every game is different. Like, yes, some things are a little bit monotonous. I would say that, going back to Steven earlier, where I don't think I actually answered the question of like, what's the least favorite part, is there are challenges and I have to like psych myself up. It's like, yes, I have covered this event 15 times or this, and some of it can drag and feel like, man, I've been doing this a long time. Like, I don't really care to do that for the 16th time, but it's every new season, every new coach, the players are new. It's always cycling through, right? So there's always new and different stories to tell. There's always new, different teams to cover. It's never the same. And then eventually it all comes down to like the people and the relationships. Like, you're always just meeting new people, you're telling new stories, and that's what kind of keeps it always fresh and new and fun.
What's next for you in your career as you continue to develop? Do you have any goals, aspirations, any milestones you're chasing?
That's a good question. I don't, because I just don't know. I used to always be like, I don't really see myself doing anything different, but that really changes and evolves, especially as your kids get older. Right. Because I'm like, man, I've thought about this a lot. Like, am I going to do this when my kids get to high school? Because I'm going to want to watch them play. I don't want to go cover a random, Loyola football game on a Friday night if my kid's playing in Billings. Like, I want to travel with my son to watch him play.
Sure.
Which I think I'll be able to maybe balance out when I get to that point. But yeah, my contract's up in the spring. We kind of work in the TV industry. It's kind of different, but I'm up on my 4-year contract. So we'll kind of start talking and see where that kind of goes from there. But I really like this community. I really like what I do, and I still find it enjoyable. I think as my kids get older, it will be a little bit more challenging, and it'll just be trying to, figure out that and balance that. Cause that's my number one priority, is like, I'm not going to miss out on their stuff, cause they're only going to be that age doing that for so long. I'm actually going to miss, I think this is airing afterwards, but the Grizz South Dakota State playoff game. I'm going to go coach my 5th grade son in Anaconda, and it's gonna be the first home game I'm missing since 2010.
Wow.
First Grizz game I'm missing at home. But I said, like, and everyone, all the parents, all the coaches, every single person that I talk to are like, it goes by so fast, and you have to enjoy all these moments with your kids. So I'm going to make sure that I'm present and there for that stuff, especially because I'm not there at every dinner every single night. And so I have to be present when they have those things. So it's just balancing that out. As long as I can
Good for you.
continue, as long as I can continue that family stuff and do my job, then we'll just keep plugging away.
I admire that. That's really awesome, Shaun. As a guy who watches a lot of sports, I guess inversed with high school sports, college sports here in Montana, and watch a lot of ESPN. You do a great job. I think
I appreciate it.
You're a phenomenal sideline reporter.
Hopefully you weren't watching the show last night, because that was
I didn't see last night's show.
It was bad.
Great follow on Twitter.
Yes.
I don't know how you live tweet your life. Like, you are on Twitter.
Yeah,
continually.
Yeah. It's a weird balance too.
Yeah, but no, great. You do a phenomenal job, and
Appreciate
grateful for you and the impact you've had in Missoula sports. It's always fun. Son comes home from practice and was like, Shaun was at practice today and interviewed us, and I just appreciate all you do for our community.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, last question before we get you out of here, Shaun. I know you're doing a little bit of this coaching with young broadcasters and giving back, but what would be your best advice for somebody getting out of journalism school and wanting to make a career out of this? How would you help them along the way? Or what would you say to them?
The easiest question to answer. You have to have a passion for it. There's a lot of people that get into it, especially in, broadcast TV, because it seems glamorous and I get to be on TV and people will know me and it's so cool. If you don't have a passion for it and it's not truly like what you should be doing, it will not work. It just won't. Like, you won't be good at it. You won't enjoy the grind of everything else that goes along with it, because there's a lot that goes on that isn't glamorous, and the pay is not great, and the hours are not great, and you don't have holidays off, and the news is always going. You're going to be off schedule from all your friends, family. So if you don't have a passion for it and truly want to do it, and it's not in you, then just go find something else to do. And it's as simple as that. Wait,
one more question. We talked about this earlier with the work-life balance and with your family. Is your wife a sports fan?
She was a lot more when we first started, and I think now it's just so sports overload that it's like she's kind of over it. It's a balance, So
you don't come home and talk about the game. You just
no, not really. No. We're not breaking down like the Grizz game and stuff. Okay. And I think that, I think she doesn't like NFL anymore, because she's like, how you're around sports all the time? How on your one day off are you just going to watch sports all day? I'm like, that's who I am. I can't help it. But because I'm just so sports overload, she's almost like kind of gone away from it and be like, I need a break from the sports.
Makes sense.
But we were trying to get her into like fantasy and, survivor leagues and things like that. And it's a gentle process. She loves, the kids in sports and
persevere, stay persistent.
Yeah, but as far as like me watching sports, no, that's kind of that's a little much.
Makes sense. Yeah. Hey, thanks for the impact you've made in our city, Shaun. Appreciate you having you in here, and we can officially bury the hatchet, I think, between you and I. Is that good?
That sounds great.
All right.
Appreciate it, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Shaun.